With Generations Remaster coming up pretty quickly, there's one remaster that's been heavily requested over the years, and it may be more important than you think. Hey everyone, my name is Shemp, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be discussing why Sonic Unleashed deserves to get the Sonic X Shadow treatment, just with a better name. You may not know it, but Sonic Unleashed came out at a very prominent time in Sonic's lifespan. The last mainline game before this was Sonic 06. Now obviously, our views on this game may have changed a little bit over the years, especially with the introduction of things like Project 06, but at the time, this was the main topic when Sonic was brought up online, or hell, even in public. Regardless of what you think of Unleashed, you cannot deny that the production value of this game vastly overshadows any of the ones before it. Even to this day, in 2024 and beyond this year, Unleashed will always shock me with how well these visuals hold up. I will constantly shout out the opening cutscene for still being a visual spectacle. Everyone watching this video really needs to remember that this game came out in 2008, and at the time of this recording, that's almost 16 years ago, pushing 20 years, and this game still looks that good. That is genuinely insane to me. But why do I think that this game is so important? Why do I believe that it was essential for the IP? Well, much like Sonic, Unleashed has so much character. If you look at the surface level of this game, even then you can tell that a lot is going on here. Sega poured a huge chunk of money into the production of this game, and it still shows today. The game looks amazing. As you walk around hub areas, blast through daytime stages, or fight your way through nighttime stages, the presentation is always on point. This is the first game using the Hedgehog engine, and good lord, what a great way to show off what your new tech can do. There's a really good video by about how this engine works that I highly recommend you check out after this video. Sonic Unleashed set the groundwork for all the games after it. Everything under the hood up to the current game, Frontiers, all spawned from this game. It introduced the boost formula. It finally standardized the art style for Sonic games. It gave us a glimpse at what the games going forward would look like, and it finally let us feel the speed that Sonic is always known for achieving. You can't deny how fun it is to just watch boost games. Anyone who's not familiar with how these games usually look and play, you will look like a god tier speedrunner to them. No level feels like it overstays its welcome, except that one. The level design emphasizes the sheer velocity that you can gain by learning every shortcut. But what about the opposite side? Daytime Sonic is always remembered as the best part of the game, which, to be fair, it very much is. Nighttime Sonic was always bashed on from the game's release, mainly because of the concept. Anytime I've ever heard anyone online or in person talk about Unleashed from the day it was released, will always rag on the werehog just because the concept is dumb to them. No one really talks about the quality of the gameplay. For anyone who doesn't know, the werehog levels were basically hack and slash brawler levels, but before I continue, it's very important to understand why this is even in the game in the first place. Sega was just following the trends of the industry at the time, like every company still does. This isn't anything new. Games are constantly changing to fit the current trends. Fortnite switched from a co-op survival game to a battle royale after the success of PUBG. Then Call of Duty followed the same path after Fortnite blew up. Assassin's Creed Origins shifted to more of an RPG system similar to how The Witcher 3 did. Final Fantasy, what number is that? 15. Final Fantasy 15 shifted to an open world real-time combat game, like The Witcher as well. Tomb Raider rebooted to play more like Uncharted. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order adopted the combat and level progression of Dark Souls. Even back in the day, Jak 2 adopted the pseudo-open world aspect of GTA. Sonic Unleashed incorporated hack and slash combat because of the popularity of games at the time like Devil May Cry and God of War, for example. Those games were making the rounds everywhere. People loved playing as an all-powerful character with the weapons needed to take down hordes of enemies all at once. Hell, even Spyro did this concept at the same time as Unleashed too. In fact, both games took a lot of level design elements from God of War specifically. Two different IPs following the same trends in the industry at the same time. Again, it's not new. It's still happening today. Hell, I mentioned God of War a bunch. That series adopted the cinematic over-the-shoulder gameplay that was made more popular by games like The Last of Us. Trends are still changing, and companies are still adapting. Like I said earlier, people looking back at this game always favor the daytime stages, and for good reason. But over the past couple years, thankfully, people are starting to realize that the werehog levels are actually really fun. Recently, I started streaming the game from start to finish over at twitch.tv/shempofficial, where I do speedruns, new game releases, talk about video game collecting, bang your mom, and I made it a point to dump all of my upgrades into the werehog's combat very early on in the game, and that really elevated the gameplay for me specifically. It also made it more visually interesting for my chat to watch, because I wasn't repeating the same combat over and over and over. It genuinely made me enjoy the gameplay a lot more since there was actual depth to the combat. I loved experimenting on stream with what I could do with what enemies and how I could clear a room more effectively. Honest to God, if you've played the game a very long time ago, I'd highly recommend picking it up again to give Werehog another shot. I really do enjoy the gameplay a lot. Along with the overall gameplay and presentation, I feel like the story is also just really enjoyable, and it feels kind of grounded. You know, besides the talking hedgehog and the flying red thing and the literal Satan emitting from the earth that was destroyed by a scientist in space. Yeah, I'd say pretty grounded. It really is about Sonic and his new friend exploring the world. They go to different countries to experience new cultures while doing the normal Sonic stuff with the Chaos Emeralds. Each time you're in a new location, you're exploring these really pretty hub worlds that represent real-life locations in the world. You can search around for more collectibles, talk to people of the country, purchase local foods and souvenirs for your friends, and listen to the perfectly matched music. I really love these hub worlds. They add an insane amount of charm to the overall experience. The story does kind of feel like a muted shonen, which I really like. Now let's get into the fun part. Why does it need a remaster? Well, more reasons than you think. And it does go deeper than it's my favorite game, so it deserves a remaster. For starters, it's still somewhat stuck on the original two consoles. And yes, I did say two consoles. We're talking about the HD versions of the game, not the SD versions of the game. If you're curious as to what that entails, I'd highly recommend checking out this video that I did covering that specific topic. These are more than just simple ports. In fact, they're not ports at all. This is an entirely different game from this. So after this video, I'd highly recommend checking out that one. But anyways, yes, the HD versions are still somewhat stuck. And I say somewhat because the Xbox version was added to the backwards compatibility list for the current and last generation Xbox consoles. If you own a current gen Xbox Series console, you get to see what a remaster could look like, because the game runs at 60 FPS. It had some performance issues when the game came out, so it took at least 2 console generations to get the game running at its full potential, which is insane to me. The problem is that this better version is exclusive to the current gen Xbox consoles, so already we're lowering the accessibility to a smaller demographic. Xbox fans who are also Sonic fans, who also have the current gen systems, who also are willing to buy the game if they don't already own it. Not only that, but nothing is added to the game. It is purely an FPS boost. No quality of life improvements, no extra content, no nothing. It is just the game, but smooth. Remastering this game would help us see what the artistic vision the team had back in 2008 that they couldn't effectively achieve. In order to get close to what their vision was, the engine at the time had to carefully pick and choose lighting and shadows in order to run at all on the consoles at the time. The video about the engine goes into detail about what struggles the team went through in order to get the game running properly. So again, consider checking out that video after this one. The way Hedgehog Engine 2 works is how most modern engines work nowadays, since there's more power under the hood of the consoles and PCs. Most, if not all, of the graphical fidelity is done in real time, so the team doesn't have to be super cautious about their resources. Say what you will about Sonic Forces, the environmental presentation is very good. Water reflections, light rays, nice harsh shadows, etc. There's an insane amount of potential in this engine in its current state. Moving Sonic Unleashed to this engine via a remaster would be similar to how the Arkham games were moved from Unreal Engine 3 to Unreal Engine 4. It's the same game at its core, just with slight quality of life improvements and more power attributed to the engine. So it was able to take advantage of the improved presentation tech. Now, the performance is another story, but that's mainly due to poor optimization from what I understand. It would be really interesting to see what new content that they would add to the game in this theoretical remaster, like how they're doing with Generations. So already I can see them adding all of the DLC from the vanilla game, but what about new content? Well, for Generations, we're getting that Shadow storyline that's going to be very lore heavy, and it intertwines with the base Generations story, which is super cool, but what about Unleashed? Well, personally, I think it'd be very cool for them to add more sections of the world to explore. The selection we have is already very diverse, but exploring the world with Sonic and Chip is just so charming. Either that or maybe some post-game story content for after the main story. Once Chip goes and the werehog is gone, where does Sonic go next? We could see some more daytime stages based on those theoretical other locations that could be added. Sonic Unleashed marked an essential point in the identity of Sonic's gameplay going forward. It laid out the groundwork for how these games would look and play. Reintroducing this game to a modern-day Sonic audience could be very good. It's still hard to say, but I'd say recently Sonic's online presence has been met with a lot more appreciation rather than just blind hate. But before we end this video, what about the SD versions, as previously mentioned? Well, that seems pretty obvious to me. A lot of the games around this time are kind of destined to be stuck in the past. If we're dumping money into a remaster of a game that already cost a lot of money, it wouldn't make sense to also dump more money into a remaster of a game of the exact same name that's an entirely different game. It's like if Activision decided to remaster Black Ops Declassified. Like, cool, I guess, but why? This version was very odd. The boost mechanic was broken up into chunks, the level design is extremely flat, I think 2 sections of the HD game are just completely missing, and the gameplay is overall just very stripped back. All of the fun from the werehog in the HD game is watered down to like 1 or 2 combos that gets repeated every level. It's an interesting product, and it definitely has its fans, but there's really no need to re-release this. It would just 100% confuse the general public. I mean, hell, The Force Unleashed got a remaster on Switch, but it wasn't the HD version. They actually did the opposite of my theoretical and did the SD version instead. Again, peep this video if you'd like more information about this concept. So with that said, what do you think about this idea? Should Unleashed get the Generations treatment? Has your view changed on the game over the years? Talk with me in the comments below. And hey, while you're down there, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, otherwise God's gonna be very mad and I might rupture your appendix. If you're looking for some more fun Shemp content, I'd highly recommend checking out this video I did about one specific question. Was Spyro destined to fail? I guess you're gonna have to watch and find out. And one last thing, make sure you check out the amazing clothes at Shemp.store. We have some awesome shirts, mugs, and all kinds of other stuff. And be sure to follow me on the social media of your choice. So with all that said, I'll see you all in the next video.